I never expected a millionaire to fall for me, until he proposed to the cleaner in tears. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. Chaos reigned in the elegant hall. Chattering guests, crystal glasses clinking, laughter that felt so far away from my world. The golden light shimmered around me, but my heart was cold. Alone in a sea of silk and pearls, I felt invisible, and then I saw him. Samuel. Tall, dark-haired, with a smile that could light up the room. A millionaire. The kind of man who whispered promises in the night. But those promises weren't meant for me. His laughter echoed softly, wrapping around me, but something in his eyes sadness. I yearned to understand what haunted him. My hands trembled slightly as I clutched my drink, wishing just to be seen. He had the life I dreamed of, the fancy car, the mansion on the hill, friends who only wore designer. I was just the girl who cleaned the rooms in his hotel. Still, we shared stolen moments. He'd look at me in a way that made my heart skip. I thought there was hope, and then I heard it. Whispers. Did you hear what happened? I can't believe he'd do that. The chatter gripped my chest like a vice. My heart raced as I strained to catch fragments of the conversation. A proposal. A woman. The cleaner? My breath caught, and a lump formed in my throat that I turned, eyes wide, scanning the crowd. My pulse quickened as I saw her from afar. Grace, his cleaner. The way she moved, elegant yet unassuming. A blush spread across her cheeks, and there it was. The diamond sparkled on her finger. The guests erupted in gasps, some clapping, others with jaws dropped. How could he? Murmurings filled the air that I was frozen. Confusion swirled within me. Pain roared like a storm. It felt like the ground shifted under my feet. This beautiful illusion I built crumbled. How could a millionaire, a man I thought I had a connection with, chose someone else? Someone so ordinary? My hands shook as tears blurred my vision. I wanted to hate him. I wanted to shout, to scream my heart out. This wasn't how it was supposed to unfold. But as I looked closer, I saw Samuel's face, crumpled and raw. He was trembling, holding Grace's hands tightly. I glimpsed vulnerability, pain behind that million-dollar smile. The room's laughter faded into a haunting silence. What did this mean? What dark secrets lay beneath this wealthy surface? I was drawn to him, my heart aching with desire and questions. Before I could gather any of my muddled thoughts, his gaze darted toward me. The entire room vanished. My world shrank to that moment, that heartbeat where everything felt suspended in time. Was he really in love with her? Or was there more? My heart thudded, a mix of hope and dread. I felt frozen, powerless as the truth hung precariously in the air, teasing me with its uncertainty. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Every breath felt sharp as I fought against the tide of despair flooding my heart. There I stood, trapped in the shadows of grandeur, a mere observer of a dream that had morphed into a nightmare. Samuel's eyes, which once promised solace, now vibrated with a storm of emotions I couldn't decipher. Did he feel regret? Was he trapped in some fate that he had no choice but to embrace? The muted applause echoed in my ears. As I slipped away from the gathering, I noticed a couple of kind faces in the crowd who caught the look of my turmoil, a waitress with gentle eyes, and a bartender who subtly nodded in support. They understood, perhaps because they too bore the weight of unshared stories, of loving from a distance. I felt a flicker of warmth from their silent empathy, a fleeting reminder that I was not entirely unseen. But my sanctuary was the utility room, where floor mops leaned against walls, and the smell of disinfectant mingled with stale air. Tears fell unbidden, each droplet a heavy reminder of shattered hopes. I let them flow, feeling the sharp ache in my chest ease just slightly as I released my pain into the empty space. Then, a soft knock broke the stillness. I looked up, startled, and wiped my eyes hastily. It was Samuel, his silhouette framed by the doorway, tall, uncertain, his face a tempest of conflicted emotions. My heart raced, pounding in sync with the chaos that raged within. "Can I come in?" His voice was low, almost hesitant that I hesitated but nodded. He stepped inside, closing the door carefully behind him, like a secret too precious to let escape. The air thickened, and a tense silence hung between us, both battling the weight of unspoken words. "That I am sorry," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't want you to have to see that, especially not like this." "Why her?" The question escaped my lips before I could hold it back, raw and painful, the bitterness of betrayal seeping through. Here was a man ensnared in luxury, yet he stood before me now, looking so human, so vulnerable. He took a deep breath, his eyes searching mine for understanding. "Grace, she's someone from my past. There are things you don't know about me, things I've kept hidden to protect us both." My heart raced with a rush of hope. Could there be a deeper connection? Perhaps even a truth binding us despite the distance set by wealth and societal barriers. Before I could respond, he continued, his voice strained, "I never intended to hurt you. When we were together, I felt alive, free. But then everything spiraled out of control, and I got trapped. A commitment I thought I could break away from. I didn't plan for." His gaze fell around the room, as if searching for clarity among the clutter. "For me?" I finished, my voice shaking. "What is it you want from me, Samuel?" He stepped closer, his presence enveloping the small space between us. "To be honest about my feelings. To let you know that every moment with you felt real, unlike the pressures that come with money." He lowered his head, shame etched across his features. I thought I was making the right choice proposing to Grace. But deep down, my heart knew it belonged to someone who saw past my wealth, someone who understood my struggle. The sincerity in his eyes softened the barricade of hurt I felt. Yet, unease churned in my stomach as I contemplated his words. I was drawn to him, yet terrified of being consumed by this chaotic love built on shattered dreams and a foundation of secrets. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, the door swung open abruptly, revealing Grace, the new fiancée, her expression a mix of surprise and hurt. Her eyes darted between us, and I could almost hear the shattering of her heart, mirroring the cracks in my own. "Samuel, what's going on here?" Her voice trembled on the edge of disbelief, the diamond on her finger glinting like a cruel reminder of the promises exchanged. That I felt the world tilt on its axis, hope twisting into an unspeakable tension that thickened the air around us. All at once, everything I thought I understood was thrown into turmoil. In that moment, with Grace standing there, the truth felt farther away than ever, an inexplicable rift stretching between love, sorrow, and the unknown. The silence was suffocating, a thick fog rolling in to shroud the simmering emotions in the room. I could feel the air crackle with unspoken words, the tension palpable as Grace's eyes darted between Yuso's moment, filled with confusion, the next with burgeoning anger. I clutched the edges of the utility sink, desperately grounding myself against an overwhelming tide of vulnerability. "Samuel, is this what you want? Is this why you've been avoiding me?" Grace's voice rose, trembling, her shock morphing into incredulity. With each syllable, it became a sharpened blade, aimed not just at Samuel, but at the very heart of our tangled lives. His gaze remained fixed on mine, searching, pleading. "Grace, it's not what? Not what it looks like." Her laugh was a hollow sound, devoid of humor, cracking under the strain of raw pain. "You were standing here, in a dark room with her. What am I supposed to think?" I felt heat cascading over me, a mix of shame and indignation, as if I were suddenly the intruder in their long-festering drama. Unwanted, unseen. I glanced at Samuel, a storm of emotions raging behind his stoic facade. "I wanted to talk to her, Grace," he began, stepping slightly toward her in an attempt at resolution. "I thought you respected my need. Toto, what? Betray me with someone like her?" She spat the words, venomous and cruel, igniting old wounds I had tried to bury. My heart broke not just for me, but for her, too. Lost in the shambles of a perfect facade, he turned to me, his expression shifting into one of urgency, but all I could feel was the sting of betrayal. "Don't listen to her, please." "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," Samuel implored, desperation mixing with sincerity. Yet, as he reached out towards me, it felt like something sacred was slipping through my fingers, leaving only echoes of what could have been. "You didn't mean for any of this to happen?" My voice trembled, the weight of his words grinding against my heart like a millstone. Suddenly, the room felt too small, too filled with pain I didn't know how to carry. I needed to escape, to breathe. So, I broke free from the corner that had become a prison, turning to slip by Grace, feeling her icy presence bore into my back. I stepped into the hallway of muted light, the sound of the revelry outside growing louder in my ears, a cruel reminder of joy that had always eluded me. But just as I thought I could find solace in the thrumming crowd, a hand gripped my arm, spinning me around. It was Samuel, his face a portrait of fear and regret. "Please, don't go like this. Just let me explain," he pleaded, the fire of his earlier bravado now a flickering candle, ready to extinguish. "What can you say that will make this any different?" My words were sharper than intended, cutting through the air with a clarity that betrayed how broken I felt inside. "You have a life ahead of you, Samuel, one that doesn't include me that I want it to include you," he countered, his voice rising, filled with an intensity I'd never witnessed before. "I don't know how to break free from this world, this obligation, but with you, I feel real. I want to fight for what we have." His eyes burned into mine, and somewhere inside me, I felt the stirrings of emotion I thought I had pushed down. But then Grace emerged behind him, her presence looming as a specter of unresolved conflict. "I asked this about her, Samuel?" she asked, her voice brittle yet edged with a calm that demanded answers. "Or is this about you wanting your cake and eating it too?" Desperation filled the space between us, a crucible of feelings threatening to uncoil into chaos. I gazed toward Grace, and a horrible sense of sympathy crashed over me. She was fighting for something that had never belonged to her. I felt the pull, once again, to bow out of a fight that wasn't mine. Yet, the pain in my chest could no longer be ignored. "I never wanted any of this," I finally whispered, feeling defeated. "I don't want to be the reason for your pain, Grace. I don't even want to be here, caught between you and the world he has all but abandoned." Her eyes softened momentarily, and I caught a glimpse of the frightened girl beneath the glamorous exterior, but it was snuffed out quickly, harsh realities settling back into place. "This is not over," she warned, her resolve steeling. "And I will fight for him, fight for what's mine, no matter what." With that, she slipped away, leaving Samuel and me swaying in an uncertain balance, the silence deafening. He reached for me again, fingers brushing my arm softly, sparking warmth that felt foreign yet familiar. But a tangle of emotions blocked me from stepping closer. "Grace is not who I want," Samuel said, his voice a mixture of sincerity and despair. "It's you. I just don't know how to move forward." In that moment, a flicker of the sweetness we shared ignited an ember in my heart. "If you want me, Samuel," I said, collecting my thoughts amid a swirl of emotion, "then we need to start fresh." With honesty, without shadows looming over us, he stepped closer, his eyes gleaming with determination. But just as I thought a path forward could emerge, a crash echoed through the hall, drawing our attention. Through the crowd, the waitress with gentle eyes rushed towards us, wide-eyed, her demeanor urgent. "Something's happened," she gasped, breathless. "There's been an accident. Someone in the family, they need you now." The words hit us like a tidal wave, disrupting the tentative connection we were building, ripping the curtain back to expose the chaos outside our fragile world. Across the room, a familiar figure fell to the ground, a harbinger of lost hope, and in that moment, everything we had fought for hung precariously on the cusp of unimaginable change. The moment we saw the form crumpled on the floor, time seemed to bend, and the world around us faded into an otherworldly silence. Samuel's face went ashen, a shifting canvas of dread and disbelief. My heart raced, a primal instinct taking over as I grabbed his hand, hoping he would ground me amidst the tumult of emotions surging inside. "What would happen?" he stuttered, his grip tightening around mine as we edged closer to the crowd that had gathered. My pulse quickened, the air heavy with anticipation. Faces turned towards us, wide-eyed and somber, whispers of panic rippling through the throng. The waitress, still breathless, pointed toward the amber-haired figure now surrounded by a growing circle of concerned onlookers. My heart sank as recognition washed over me. Samuel's sister, Eliza. She had always been the beacon of warmth in their family, radiating kindness even when expectation weighed heavily on her. Now, lying there, frail and silent, that light seemed snuffed out, and I felt a ripple of despair shoot through the entire room. Is she okay? I asked, half terrified to hear the answer. Samuel's eyes, usually so filled with light, dimmed, casting a shadow that darkened the space around us. I don't know. Let's get to her, he whispered, his voice breaking. Desperation radiated from him as he wove through the crowd, his urgency palpable. Every step felt heavy, riddled with confusion. Around us, people murmured, some pulling out their phones, while others turned to each other, fear etched on their faces. As we approached Eliza, the murmuring escalated into panicked shouts. Someone held a cloth against her forehead, but as I looked closer, fear gripped my heart. It was soaked, drenched in crimson that echoed the dread pooling in my gut. My nerves writhed, and I turned to Samuel, whose expression morphed from disbelief to gut-wrenching concern. She was just here. I was talking to her, he stammered, tears glistening in the corners of his eyes. How could this happen? I reached for his hand again, threading my fingers through his, wanting to be the strength he so desperately needed. Samuel, we need to call for help, I said, ringing with a resolve that belied the fear thrumming within me. She can't be alone. He looked at me then, and something shifted beneath the surface of his grief. A flicker of hope? A reminder that sometimes, even amid turmoil, we could be there for one another. He nodded, almost imperceptibly, as if steeling himself for a reality that was too harsh to face. The response team arrived swiftly, their uniforms contrasting sharply against the chaos, embodying hope as they pushed through the crowd. They knelt down beside Eliza, each movement purposeful yet fluid, as they assessed the situation. Time no longer held sway over me. It stretched painfully as I watched them work, desperation clawing at my insides. Just then, a familiar voice rose from the crowd, a voice I both loved and dreaded. Samuel, what's happening? It was Grace, her presence threading a tension deeper than the urgency of the scene. Stay back, I called out before I had the chance to think better of it, instinctively defending him in a moment of vulnerability. My heart ached with the complexity of it all. She had a right to care, a right to be concerned, yet all I could think of was protecting Samuel, shielding him from another blow. What is she doing here? Samuel's voice came out low and angry, the tension crackling between us. Get her away from me, Samuel, I pleaded, squeezing his arm. This isn't the time. What if she can help? But as Grace stepped closer, her eyes glistening, a hollow sadness draped around her like a tattered veil, I noted the conflicted look on Samuel's face. Why are you here? He snapped, confusion and pain pushing against the walls he had built around himself. You don't care about my family, do you? Samuel, listen to me, please. Grace's voice wavered, a mixture of genuine concern and bitterness battling beneath her surface. I made mistakes, terrible ones. But I'm still family. I can help with this family. His voice cracked, all the raw emotions spilling forth. Family is supposed to be there when it matters. You weren't there for me or for her. I stood frozen, helpless, watching the fragile threads of connection entwining around us becoming frayed and worn with each word they exchanged. In that heart-stopping moment, a part of me wanted to reach for Grace and pull her close, to offer comfort and understanding in the midst of chaos. But another part quivered with the vitality of a new bond with Samuel. Then, suddenly, Eliza stirred. The medics moved with renewed urgency, their eyes glancing toward one another, exchanging silent acknowledgments. I inhaled sharply, focusing on her face, that familiar Smilia beacon I had taken for granted. Samuel? She murmured, her voice barely a whisper, laced with confusion. He dropped to his knees beside her, his hand cradling her face as if she were made of porcelain. I'm here, Eliza. I'm right here with you, he said, choked with emotion. In that moment, something cracked in Grace's expression. The anger melted away as a torrent of empathy surged forth. Eliza, hang in there. You're going to be okay. The words tumbled out, a soft prayer against the cacophony of emotions swirling around us. Eliza's hand weakly reached for Samuel, and I felt time unraveling in strands of love and fear all around us. Behind the palpable intensity of that moment, I felt a shift, an unfastening of long-buried emotions that could no longer remain silent. But just when I thought we might find a semblance of solace, a figure stepped from the crowd, eyes blazing with an intensity that quelled the air around us. I recognized him instantly, an enigmatic detail from Samuel's past, someone I never thought I'd see again. "Eliza, what have you done?" he thundered, storming toward us, a wild look in his eyes. The weight of unresolved stories crashed down on me, and I felt the barbed entanglements of our lives tightening. Samuel's body stiffened beside me, and a frisson of tension swept through the crowd. As I turned to Samuel, desperate for assurance, the words caught in my throat, the mysteries of our intertwined fates no longer bound by mere chaos, but woven into a shared destiny that eclipsed the love and pain between us. And as the figures moved ever closer, it dawned on me. This was only the beginning of a storm that threatened to consume not just Samuel and Grace, but all of us. As the figure advanced, Samuel's expression twisted from confusion into something more primal: fear. I could sense the pathway to understanding their shared history was fraught with shadows. Each step the stranger took toward us, digging deeper into the soil of Samuel's past. My heart beat erratically, mirroring the unease rippling through the gathered crowd. "Who are you?" Samuel demanded, his voice a mixture of anger and disbelief, as if he was still hoping this man was just a figment of his imagination. I tightened my grip on his arm, ready to offer a silent reassurance, yet unsure if I could withstand whatever emotional storm was brewing. "Logan," the man stated flatly, his gaze piercing. "I'm here about Eliza." Samuel's look of recognition flashed quicker than I could react. He rose to his feet, tension vibrating through his body as he straightened up, reclaiming his authority over the moment. "What do you know? What have you done to her?" His question felt like a sword drawn and ready for battle. "I didn't do anything." Logan shot back, frustration bursting from his lips. "We were supposed to meet." I thought his voice trailed off, and for a brief second, sorrow flickered across his fiercely guarded features. "Eliza, she meant everything to me." "Did she call you? Did she even mention me?" The implication hung heavy in the air between us, a sorrowful memory laden with fluttering undercurrents of what might have been. I could see the conflict build within Samuel, the young boy grappling with abandonment, suddenly faced with the almost tangible evidence of a life he hadn't known about, yet remained inexorably connected to. "She asked me to take this path," Logan continued, his demeanor shifting as he directed his focus back toward Eliza. "She wanted to leave. She was frightened. I couldn't stop her." "Stop her?" Samuel laughed bitterly, incredulity mingling with sorrow. "You're saying the sister I love was planning to run away? From what? From you?" As Logan opened his mouth to speak, something in his expression caught my eye, a flicker of truth buried beneath layers of regret. I turned to Eliza, whose eyelids fluttered as if stirring from a dream. "Eliza, do you remember Logan?" I whispered, climbing over the turmoil in my own heart to kneel beside her. Her gaze refocused, revealing a semblance of clarity as she scanned the faces around her. "Logan?" she murmured, a hint of confusion coloring her voice. But I thought her breath hitched, a vulnerability cascading over her like a fragile veil. "Is it true?" Samuel pressed, urgency thrumming in his voice. "You were going to leave us?" "No." Eliza gasped, the pain evident as she struggled to sit upright, each movement appearing torturous. "Not from you. I was trying to escape from everything." Her confession hung like mist in the air, thick and laden with a deep-seated fear. "I felt so lost for so long, but not with you. I need you." My heart pounded in rhythm with their heartsake. Yet even as hope dawned amid their pain, I felt an unshakable dread looming overhead. Just when I thought we could navigate these tumultuous waters together, Grace moved closer, her voice catching in her throat. "Eliza, please, you don't have to protect us." Not from the truth. The fragmented nature of our tangled lives spun further out of control as different realms of love and loss converged. The storm clouds that had gathered during these emotional revelations were no longer exclusively about Samuel's connection to Eliza or Grace's regret, but intertwined with impending revelations I still couldn't grasp. "Why don't you just say it?" Logan interjected, the fire in his voice hinting at buried emotions. "Tell them about your mother, Eliza. Tell them what she's really kept from you." Silence fell, a demanding void that seemed to suck the very air from the room. Eliza's face paled as understanding danced in her eyes, and for a moment, every other sound faded. Medics busily working to stabilize her, the murmurs of the crowd, the distant wail of sirens all muffled against the weight of truth. "Logan, please." Eliza's voice trembled, her walls beginning to crack. "You don't know what you're asking, don't I?" he challenged, his demeanor fierce yet somehow pleading. "The riddles and the secrets won't lead anyone to healing. You're not alone, Eliza. You've never been. But if we don't put the past behind us, all of this will destroy you." Then, as if ignited by an unseen force, Samuel took a step back, realization flooding his expression, that hint of betrayal I never thought I would see darkening his eyes. "What does she mean? What secrets? What happened with your mother?" Tension stretched taut, a thread about to snap as the truth lurked just beyond the veil of hesitation. Eliza's hand clasped Samuel's tightly, and I could see her pulling him into the depths of her sorrow, yearning to protect him even as she felt the fissures of her own fragility unfolding. She can't." Eliza stumbled over her words, emotions threatening to break free. "It's not what you think. It's just, not yet. I'm not ready." But the battle within them was visible, painted across their emotions. Samuel recoiled as if she had struck him. "How long has it been? How long have you kept me in the dark?" The question struck deep, and yet it was the revelation of Logan's urgency to help that sparked a glimmer of connection through a shroud of darkness. "Please, Eliza," he urged, warmth in his tone fragged by desperation. "It's time to stop hiding." And right then, as the emotional storm churned violently around us, I caught a flicker of understanding in Grace's tear-streaked gaze, piercing through an unexpected bond forming amid the wreckage of their past. Could we, too, find a way through? But just as those fragile threads began to weave together, a sudden rustle in the crowd erupted, a figure elbowing their way through, eyes wild and frantic. "Eliza!" they cried, panic evident, with a revelation that shattered the fragile moment. "The truth is worse than you can imagine." As every eye turned toward the new arrival, a promise for more timeline shifts revealed itself. Reality warped in a heartbeat, engulfing us in a depth we hadn't begun to fathom. In that moment, as hope slipped further from our grasp, I knew that not just Samuel and Eliza's futures hung in a precarious balance, but the essence of all our lives had somehow become intertwined in a maelstrom that could tear us apart forever. The figure breaking through the crowd felt both intrusive and familiar, a specter bearing news that twisted through my chest with a grip of foreboding. "What do you mean, worse than we can imagine?" Eliza's voice wavered, trembling in unison with her fragile grasp on Samuel's hand, both of them anchored in an unspoken pact to face whatever storm was brewing together. "Mom," the newcomer gasped, collapsing into the space beside Eliza, breathless and frightened. This was Sophie, the youngest in their family, and I could see the remnants of childhood innocence mingled with fear in her wide, tear-filled eyes. "You have to listen. It's about the letter the one Mom wrote." Eliza recoiled, as if struck by a blow. "No," she whispered, shaking her head as if to dispel the very thought. "I could not now. Not after everything." Sophie seemed undeterred, desperation fueling her words. "But it's true. She left you something, Eliza's secret she thought she could protect you from." Samuel's face twisted with confusion. "What secret?" He turned to Eliza, whose face had gone pale, the color drained like warmth from a cold winter day. "Eliza, please, just tell me. They thought they could shield all of us from the truth," she murmured, her grip tightening on Samuel's hand. "But maybe it's a veil that's suffocating us instead. What if I've been fighting against shadows that don't even exist?" Eliza, Samuel began but faltered, uncertainty lacing his voice. "We're with you. Just say what you need to say." Logan shifted closer, glancing seriously at Eliza, while Sophie stood at the edge of emotional chaos. Each heartbeat felt substantial, reverberating through the thick tension that enveloped us. It churned the air like a storm ready to burst, but instead, Sophie unleashed one harrowing truth after another, her voice a mix of anger and urgency. "Mom was hiding things from you since." Sophie hesitated, glancing down before continuing. "Since that day. You don't know what she was trying to keep from you, Eliza. She thought it would protect you." Eliza's breath shuddered. The floodgates seemed to threaten release at any moment, a deluge of unsaid words bubbling beneath her surface. "Protect me from what? What could be worse than a broken family?" No, Sophie's voice quaked. not just a broken family. There's more. You have to remember the night she left. In the growing crowd, the whispers turned to a low murmur, curiosity sparking worry in the onlookers' eyes, each face a canvas of concern, of heartbreak, of connection imprinted deeply within our shared troubles. It was more than just the bond of blood. It bore the weight of forgotten history, threads woven together by experiences laden with grief. Stop. Eliza burst out, anger flaring, as if facing a dormant monster thought hibernating. I can't bear the thought of facing more loss. Not now. I don't know all the answers. But we have to start somewhere. Sophie pleaded, desperation etched across her face, the weight of family gathering in the tremor of her voice. Mom was betrayed, Eliza. There are things she never told you, things that changed everything. Secrets that might have made you think you had to run. Logan flinched at the word betrayed. The light in his eyes revealed a glimpse of horror eons old, mingling with a wish that maybe Eliza could find solace, despite what had transpired. Against this backdrop of chaos, Samuel took a step forward, vulnerability layered within his steady gaze. Eliza, he said softly, whatever it is, whatever truth you've been avoiding, facing it doesn't mean you'll lose me. You know that, right? You're not in this alone. But her silence felt heavy, a weight thwarting spirals of hope, and just then her expression shifted from agony to something tethered and unknown, yet hauntingly vivid. Can we ever really run away from the truth? Suddenly, a guttural sound crashed through the crowd, and we turned as another figure appeared. This time it was their mother, frail and haggard, her face carved in lines of fatigue and desperation. The realization rippled through all of us. Eliza, she cried, rushing forward with a wildness infecting the air. You have to listen. The collective gasp was audible, eyes widening as she struggled through the throng of onlookers, weaving between emotion and trepidation. I was wrong. I should have never. Oh, Eliza, forgive me. An instinctual step back resonated within Eliza as confusion and disbelief clouded her features. Mom? I should have told you everything before, she confessed, her voice breaking. There's more to your father's death than I shared. The letter, you have to read it. All thoughts of hope shattered like glass, a multitude of secrets finally unleashed, threatening to engulf us all. And just as I grasped tightly to the possibility of supporting Eliza through this tumultuous moment, a fire ignited in her eyes, the dam breaking as grief surged. Before she could speak, Sophie thrust a crinkled letter into Eliza's trembling hands, the writing barely legible through the growing hysteria. You must read this. It holds the truth we've hidden for so long. The room fell silent, just as the tempest roared louder than our hearts. A truth that promised to change everything and set the path for tensions never before fathomed hung in the air. And as Eliza's fingers brushed the paper, a realization soaked into my soul. The moments ahead held the potential to sever their bonds or tether them closer than ever before. In that breathless pause, with the crowd holding its collective breath, I knew we were standing in the eye of a storm, and the worst was yet to come. Eliza's hands shook as she clutched the letter, a relic of their mother's secrets, a piece of the puzzle that had eluded them for so long. She opened it slowly, her eyes scanning the familiar handwriting that had once brought her comfort like a warm embrace. Now it felt intimidating, heavy with unspoken truths. The air around us was thick with tension, each breath an echo of uncertainty. Eliza, please, her mother urged, stepping closer, desperation scratching at the edges of her already frayed composure. What's in that letter can change everything for us. But all Eliza could do was stare at the page, her breath coming in sharp bursts. The letter was more than words. It was the weight of generations, a legacy wrapped in sadness that had been stored up, waiting for the right moment to erupt. What if it changes everything? Eliza finally choked out, her voice barely above a whisper, the tremor in it like a haunting melody that resonated deep within us all. What if the truth is worse than any of us could bear? In that moment, Sophie stepped between her sister and their mother, an unexpected surge of bravado lighting her eyes. But what if it's not? What if it's something that could finally bring us peace? The truth isn't supposed to be something we shy away from, Eliza. It's supposed to set us free, just like it was meant for Mom back then. Eliza's gaze flicked between her younger sister and their mother, a battlefield of emotions raging within her. The memories clawed at her years spent unearthing the fragments of her father's absence, nights spent imagining what life could have been like if everything hadn't fallen apart. Would this new revelation merely add fuel to the fire, or was there a chance it could extinguish her fears? A flicker of kindness caught her attention then. Logan, who had been silent up to this point, reached out softly, enveloping her in a gentle embrace. Whatever is in that letter, we're here for you. We'll face it together. You won't go through this alone. His warmth grounded her for a fleeting moment, dispelling some of the icy dread that held her in place. But as she looked up at him, his face reflected her fear rather than his usual steadiness. It was as if he too realized the magnitude of the storm they all stood on the precipice of, a storm that could tear away their very foundation. Sophie nudged her gently, or perhaps it was a nudge of reassurance. Even her bravest efforts could not mask the trembling sheen of anxiety coating Eliza's heart. "Read it, Eliza." With hesitant fingers, she unfolded the paper further, eyes scanning the lines that blurred and danced as emotions threatened to overwhelm her. Each word echoed louder than the last, tales of betrayal, loss, and regret woven with the thread of family love. A tapestry of memories stitched with the sharp edges of hidden truths. "My dearest Eliza." Eliza read aloud, her voice catching on the word dearest as if it were a trust betrayed. "I have carried this burden alone for too long, and the time has come to lay it bare before you. There are shadows cast over our past, truths about your father that I failed to share, thinking it would protect you. As she spoke, her mother's breath caught, and Logan stiffened beside her. Sophie's eyes widened, a cocktail of hope and dread swirling within her. The crowd's anticipation mounted, straining to hear the climax of this saga, the secrets that had entwined their fates. "Your father," Eliza continued, "was not the man you believed him to be. There were choices he made and things he did that brought danger to our door." The words slipped from her lips like poison, each syllable sucking the air from the room and replacing it with apprehension. "He was involved in something dark that reached beyond the fringes of our lives. I should have told you, should have made you aware that his death was not merely an accident but a consequence of those choices." The collective gasp of the crowd rippled around us, and time seemed to freeze. Eliza's eyes darted to her mother. "Is this true? Did you let us believe?" Tears streamed down her mother's cheeks now, the weight of her past unraveling before them like an unknotted rope. "I thought I could protect you from it. I thought if I kept you in the dark, you would be safe." Eliza shook her head vehemently, anger and pain swirling within her as she realized the depth of the deception. "And now look where we are. You think that telling me after all this time would somehow make me feel better? I trusted you. Trust me," her mother pleaded, her voice cracking under the intensity of the moment. "I know the truth seems so overwhelming now, but I was trying to shield you from harm. From what it cost us." Eliza shouted, her voice raw with hurt. "We continued to pay the price for your silence." The tension saturated the air until it felt electric, and then, almost punctuating the silence, a tremor raced through the room. The walls themselves bore witness to their unraveling, and as Eliza's fingers quivered on the letter, she looked at each of us, her eyes a mirrored reflection of despair and fierce determination. "That I refuse to let fear dictate my life again," she whispered, even as she shivered from the weight of history. "But I need to know the whole truth. This ends now." Just then, Sophie gasped, her gaze darting toward the windows displaying the gathering twilight. "Wait, what if someone else is watching? What if there are more people involved?" And in that moment, before the shadows could unfurl any further, a figure emerged from the street beyond the glass, obscured by the darkening gloom but unmistakably watching with intent. It sent a jolt through every heart present, a harbinger of what was yet to be unearthed, a reminder that in the quest for truth, not all specters were laid to rest. The chilling realization sunk in. Hope battled despair within Eliza's heart. What began as a fight for clarity threatened to morph into a fight for survival. And suddenly, we found ourselves dangling at the edge of an even deeper mystery, one that could change the fabric of their family forever. Eliza's heart raced as she stared at the figure outside, a semblance of a shadow that resonated with the impending panic swelling in her chest. The muted glow of street lamps illuminated the narrow face, eyes glinting with an intensity that felt predatory, a voyeur in their intimate turmoil. What do we do? Sophie whispered, her voice barely a breath, as if speaking too loudly could shatter the tense moment. We can't stay here, Logan murmured, his hand gripping Eliza's shoulder tightly, uncertainty mingling with protectiveness in his expression. Eliza tore her gaze from the unsettling figure outside, her mind racing with possibilities. Mom, is there more to the story? Is there someone else we should be afraid of? Her mother, still engulfed in her own regrets, nodded slowly, anguish creasing her features deeper with every passing second. There are things I never wanted to burden you with, Eliza. Your father's choices went beyond us. He was involved with people who don't just vanish, not easily. The weight of her confession hung in the air, a specter in itself that tightened its grip around Eliza's throat, choking any remnants of calm left within her. The world outside seemed to fade as her thoughts spiraled, considering the unknown and the danger that might seep into their lives like a toxic gas. Then we have to leave, to figure this out somewhere safe. But just as they turned toward the door, there was a sudden, stark knock that resonated through the room like thunder, heavy and unyielding. Heartbeats quickened, and tension twisted into a fine, silken thread that felt ready to snap at any moment. Open up. We know you're in there, came a voice, demanding and harsh, slicing through their fragile isolation. That Eliza's stomach dropped. It was a voice she had never expected to hear again. Panic surged within her, a restless tide pulling at the edges of her composure, threatening to overwhelm her. Who is it? She managed to whisper, though doubt already pooled in the back of her mind. I have to see you. The voice continued, urgent with a strange blend of desperation and menace. You need to hear what I have to say. Logan stepped in front of her, a protector against the unknown that lurked behind the door. Stay back, he warned, every muscle in his body taut with resolve. Whoever it is, they can't get in. Sophie echoed, her eyes wide, darting between her sister and the door as if a power struggle was unfolding right before them. But Eliza felt the pulse of something deeper stirring within her, a flicker of recognition. Wait, she breathed, stepping forward despite the protests. Middle-of-the-night confrontations were rarely pleasant, but the truth was calling her, tugging at her heart like a familiar melody. Open this door, Eliza, the voice insisted once again, frustration seeping through the cracks. Please. A shiver danced up Eliza's spine as she took a breath, preparing to unearth the underlying truth. Who are you? She finally asked, her voice steadying against the chaos churning in her mind. At a moment of silence stretched, then a sharp intake of breath. It's Adam. Confusion curved her brow as the name slipped through the air, heavy like an anchor pulling her beneath the surface. Adam, the boy from her memories. The one who had always held a mysterious allure, a flicker of something deeper before life had swept them apart. A million questions roared to life inside her. Why was he here? What did he know about her father? And, most importantly, was he a potential ally or an unforeseen threat? The seconds trudged by as Logan's expression turned impassive, suspicion tightening around him like a shield. You shouldn't have come here, he warned, glancing back at Eliza. You don't trust him. But Eliza's heart raced not with fear, but an inexplicable curiosity that longed to know. Maybe Adam held pieces to the puzzle, remnants of a past that refused to stay buried. She might not be able to face the figure lingering outside, but perhaps confronting this ghost from her past could unearth answers. Let him in, she said, her voice breaking with daring hope. Just as she uttered the words, the shadow outside stirred, hastily retreating. The unseen figure had sensed their tension, their indecision. Alarm rang through every beat of Eliza's heart. No, wait, she called, darting for the door. But the knock came again, louder this time, and she realized she was standing at the crossroads of her past, and whatever tide of uncertainty was about to follow. With one swift motion, she yanked the door open, exposing the chilling night and the familiar face stained with urgency. Eliza, you don't understand what you're dealing with, Adam breathed, urgency entwined with knowledge etched in the lines of his face. You are in danger. They're coming for you. And it's not just the past you have to worry about. Eliza's breath hitched, the enormity of his words hanging like a foreboding storm cloud overhead. A fragile thread of hope intermingled with the creeping sensation of dread settling into her bones. She had taken a bravely reckless step, But now she stood on the threshold of unraveling something larger than herself, more dangerous, more potent than anything she could have imagined. And just as she began to process Adam's warning, a sickening realization washed over her. A memory of her father's eyes flickering with fear, of fear that had once felt distant but now felt alarmingly near. "Who are they?" she demanded, her voice strong, anchored in the hope that answers could protect them. But the answer she sought would not come easily, and neither would the truth. Time slipped away like sand through the cracks of her fingers, leaving only uncertainty and the thread of what was yet to unfold. Eliza's heart hammered in her chest as Adam's words echoed in her ears, drowning out the ambient clamor of the world outside the door. The chill of fear that had settled within her slowly morphed into a gnawing curiosity, begging her to uncover the threads of this narrative, one that seemed intricately woven into her very being. Logan's face contorted in frustration, his protective instincts flaring like a flame. "Eliza, we don't even know if we can trust him." His voice cut through the charged atmosphere, and she could feel the weight of a million glances pressing in from every side, each laced with deeper concern. "I need to know," she whispered, a tremor of determination lacing her voice as she focused on Adam, who looked as though he were bracing against a wave ready to crash. His gaze was earnest, yet shadows danced around him, hinting at truths hidden in the corners of their shared past. "Let's talk." Then, Adam offered, his voice low and urgent. "But not here. They're closer than you think." Eliza nodded, casting a quick look back at her mother and Sophie, who stood frozen, uncertainty swirling in the depths of their respective eyes. With a silent agreement one forged through shared fear, they slipped into the night, wrapping themselves in the murky cloak of confusion and urgency as they moved through the darkened streets toward the edge of the town. The conversation erupted with questions that surged between them, a frantic exchange of words filled with fragmented memories, ghosts of a history too rich in worry. "They're the kind of people who don't forgive," Adam explained, his voice strained with suppressed anger. "Your father got mixed up with them. It wasn't just business, it was something treacherous. I never knew until it was too late." Eliza's heart twisted painfully as she recalled the stories her mother had shared, tales of a man she loved that transitioned into something monstrous. "What does that have to do with me? Why are they coming after me now?" "They think you have something," Adam replied, running a hand through his hair, visibly agitated. "A ledger, something that could implicate them. Your father was careless, and now they're searching for anything that could tie them to his mistakes. You're not just his daughter, you're a target." A heaviness descended upon her. All of the memories she had cherished of her father now felt tainted, laced with dread. "But what can I do? I'm not a part of this." "You are now," Logan interjected, stepping closer, grounding her amidst the turmoil. "Whatever this is, it's now a threat to your family, to us. We can't hide forever." The palpable tension of their scenario thickened like fog, wrapping around them, as they hurried past the neighboring houses that loomed like silent witnesses to their plight. The night air chilled, and with every step, a growing sensation of vulnerability gripped Eliza. They settled on a secluded park bench, where the shadows were dense and the trees created a shroud of privacy. Eliza took a deep breath, drawing resolve from the very core of her being. "I need to face this," she declared, surprising even herself with the sheer force of her words. "That I can help you," Adam said quickly, a flicker of earnest hope igniting in his eyes. "I've been doing research, reaching out to people who knew your father. He was in over his head, and I believe there are those willing to talk that can help us understand what we're up against. Why would you help me?" Eliza asked, unable to mask her skepticism. A million strands of history connected them, yet she had always viewed him through a lens of youthful infatuation rather than true understanding. Adam's face softened, revealing layers of truth she had never perceived in her teenage admiration. "Because something's wrong, and it's my fault for not trying harder to pull you away from it when I had the chance." Eliza hesitated, torn between the flickering light of hope and the darkness that loomed in the recesses of her thoughts. "What if we can't unearth the truth? What if you're wrong? I need you to trust me," Adam replied, vulnerability echoing in his voice. "I swear on everything I've found that I wouldn't lead you into danger without a plan." A moment hung between them, filled with unspoken feelings and memories, a ghostly tether, both thrilling and burdensome. But Eliza's mind was rattled with fear of repercussions looming like storm clouds. Yet, against all that paralyzed her, she knew what she had to do. With a newfound determination, she stood, brushing the lingering autumn leaves from her coat before meeting Adam's gaze. Then let's find the truth together. We'll figure this out. But you have to promise it's not just about finding out what's next. It's about protecting those I love. And in that instant, a rush of unexpected warmth enveloped her, the hope of community igniting a flicker of courage within the chaos. But just as they began to strategize their next steps, a distant siren shattered the tranquility, slicing through the air and sending a primal jolt of anxiety coursing through her. "We need to move," Logan urged, his voice alarming. As Eliza glanced around, she could see shadows flitting at the edge of visibility. Her heart sank with realization. They were no longer just a trio caught in uncertainty now. They were being hunted. "Now!" Logan shouted, pulling Eliza and Sophie closer as they darted into the nearest alley, breaths quickening with the palpable danger of the unknown closing in. Just as they dashed forward, Eliza felt a surge of defiance course through her veins. She had chosen this path, and whatever awaited them had to be faced head-on. Just as she turned back to find Adam beside her, a piercing cry sliced through the night, a voice she recognized too well, echoing with both anxiety and fury. "Eliza!" The world tilted as her mother's silhouette emerged from the shadows, her fear palpable, stretching out to her. Just as her eyes met the desperate gaze of the woman who had protected her all her life, Eliza felt a crushing wave of emotion, the kind that promised to either unite or destroy them all. "Mom, stay back!" Eliza yelled, but the ground was shifting beneath her as the truth rushed upon her all at once. Confrontation, danger, and buried secrets swirling violently above them, hungry for revelation. As I stood there, suspended between past and present, dread coiling like a serpent around my heart, the shouts of my mother reverberated in my ears. Fear draped itself over me like a shrouded dark reminder of everything I had been avoiding. "Eliza, we need to go," she cried, urgency laced through every word, the worry etched deep into her face. But the truth I craved was poised at my fingertips, waiting to unravel. "Mom, you can't just be here," I retorted, panic rising in my chest as I strained to look over her shoulder, half expecting danger to rear its head at any moment. Logan and Sophie exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from protective to pleading. "What's happening? Are you okay?" My mother pressed, her eyes flicking toward Adam, suspicion clouding her face. But there was an unbreakable tether pulling me toward Hema, pull soaked in memories intertwined with the essence of fear and choice. "That I am fine. Adam is here to help," I blurted, desperation bursting free. "We're trying to uncover the truth about Dad, Mom. The truth about everything." "Stop. Stop," she implored, frustration mixed with concern. "You shouldn't be tangled up in these lies. They could kill you." I stepped forward, confrontation spilling out before me, emotional fury igniting against a tide of fear. "You were the one who kept this from us. You chose to shield us instead of allowing us to know who we really are." The words hit like ice shattering on the ground, and the weight of my mother's secrecy hung heavy in the air. "But I was trying to keep you safe," she countered, her voice wavering, eyes glistening with an emotion I couldn't quite decipher. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." "Then tell me," I shouted, the honesty surging up from the depths of my being. Openness felt like a foreign language, but in that moment, it became my only weapon. "If we are going to face this, I need everything. Not just shards of your truth, Mom. I need it all." The determination surged within me, coiling around every realization and feeling I had tried to suppress. Memories of my father, the good, the bad, the mysterious, welled up like a dam ready to burst, and even the fear swirling through my veins became a catalyst for clarity. Sophie stepped closer, her brow creasing with concern. "Eliza, what if it's dangerous? What if we have to hide, just this once?" But the thought of hiding terrified me more than what might come. "No, I won't hide again. Not from the truth. Not now when things are finally unraveling." As I looked to Adam, there was a flicker of pride in his eyes mixed with a hue of despair for all he had seen and what he knew was about to transform. "They think they can control us," he said quietly, determination hardening each syllable that fell from his lips. "But with every secret shared, were cutting the strings binding us to their lies. And then, as if sensing the shifting dynamics, a howl sliced through the night, stark and bone-chilling. It wasn't just the darkness closing in but the very specters of our past, the stakes rapidly evolving. "They're coming. We need to go now," Logan shouted, pulling me away from my mother as realization washed over my decision. "Please," I begged my mother, desperation clawing through. "Just trust me. We can face this together. Whatever happens, we have to face it as a family." My words hung in the air, a lifeline thrown without guarantees. My mother's eyes swelled, a reflection of regret and fear flitting through her gaze. But finally, something shifted, the hardened shell cracking under storms of emotion she had buried all too long. "Eliza," she whispered, the weight of her own truth filling the spaces between us. "What if knowing changes everything? What if it hurts you more?" "Then let it hurt," I said, stepping forward bravely, my gaze unflinching. "We're going to come out stronger, no matter what happens." The fierce energy building within felt like a war cry, drawing in every bit of love I had. As the echoes of the world outside stirred restlessly, the shadows still haunting us, I felt the warmth of my mother's hand clasping mine, grounding me against everything unknown. "Together," she murmured, and in that instant, the bond that tied us complicated, tumultuous, and raw felt like a lifeline snaking through the storm. "Together," I echoed, and with that, we took a collective breath, finding strength in unity even as we rushed toward the unknown. But just then, the building pressure snapped, and the figures emerged all too familiar yet menacing. They were looking for us, laying bare the knowledge that secrets had consequences. My heart raced, hammering against my ribcage, but the fierce light in my mother's eyes ignited something deeper: acceptance. "Whoever they think they are, they'll never control us again," she said, her voice unwavering, determination coursing through every syllable. "We will face this family together. Not lost, but united." The shadows swelled as we barreled forward, hearts beating as one. Our journey was not just about navigating danger, but stripping down walls to embrace our truth, the whispered bonds of love, the shades of regret, and the fire of reckoning. The path ahead remained uncertain, but I was ready. Together, we stepped into the light, into a future shrouded in the infinity of possibilities, with courage rousing like dawn breaking through. "Let them come," I breathed, bracing myself for whatever would unfold. "Together, we'll find the way." Because in truth, the greatest revelation was not merely the one we sought, it was the messy, imperfect, and resilient love we carried. And that was the light guiding us through our shared abyss. As we pushed forward, ready to stand against what lay ahead, I could almost hear the whisper of hope amidst the chaos, a promise that sometimes the weight of our truths can become our greatest strength. And in that moment of courage, I knew we would define our own fate together, connected by the threads that only family could weave, and I felt invincible as we faced the dawn of an impending storm. Together, we braced for what would come, knowing love fragile, yet fierce was our beacon of light.